Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by my good friend and legendary boxing reporter, Colin Hart. Colin, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm still here, that's the main thing.
Well, yeah, good for us too. Big rematch on the horizon, just been announced, September. Got Joe Joyce going in against Big Bang Zhilei Zhang once again. Pretty conclusive ending to their first fight. What, if anything, can Joe do differently this time around?
I'm afraid he's got to change the habit of a lifetime. He's got to go in there and move his head. I mean, the trouble with Joe, who is obviously a top heavyweight, but he goes at his opponents in a straight line. He doesn't move his head, so therefore he's very vulnerable. And against Zhang, the first fight, he took punch after punch after punch to the head, and he still kept going forward. Okay, he got that shut eye, which caused a stoppage of the fight, but he shouldn't take that many punches. And unfortunately, every fight he has is the same. He takes too many shots.
You've been around boxing a lot longer than I have. How difficult is it to implement something like, better head movement at this stage of his career?
Well, as I say, you've got to change the habit of a lifetime. Now, can you, at 37 years of age, change what you've been doing ever since you put the gloves on? It's not easy, but he's got to try. He's got to do something different. Otherwise, he will get the same result.
How much do you admire him and also Zhang as well for going into this immediate rematch? As we see the heavyweight division at the moment seems to be very hard for fighters to actually get in the ring with each other.
Well, we've got Usyk and Dubois coming up in August. And these two are then the other two top heavyweights who are in a fight. And at least we're fighting each other in an interesting return. The rest of them, I don't know what they're playing at, but they're not boxing. And that's what they're supposed to be paid to do. I mean, it's all, people coming out with statements, people telling lies. The public are getting sick of it, to be honest. When I say the public, the boxing fans I know keep on at me. When are we going to see these guys fighting? When's Fury going to fight? When's Joshua going to fight? Is he going to fight Wilder? Is Joshua going to fight Fury? He goes on and on and on. And now they're getting fed up.
Who do you apportion the majority of the blame to? Is it the Saudi money, as we've been hearing? Is it the fighters themselves?
Well, I don't think it's... Well, yes, I think now there's so much money about, they're fighting and making the wrong move and losing out on 10, 20 million. I mean, that's what it's come down to. I mean, they're all talking telephone numbers now. So I think it's part of the fighters. I think it's part of their promoters. The Saudis have put this massive spanner in the boxing works. Everybody now looking to the Saudis to spend their money on making them multi-millionaires.
And one fighter, as you've mentioned already, who is fighting in advance of a possible Saudi payday in December is Alexander Usyk, defending his unified belts against Daniel Dubois out in Poland. What do you make of that fight and how much chance do you give Daniel?
Well, you've got to give every puncher a chance, and there's no doubt Dubois is a tremendous puncher. But, I like to think I'm a realist. Usyk is one of the cleverest fighters in any division. He's been around the block 2 or 3 times. I think he's going to know far too much for Danny. And if Danny can land a big one, then, of course, it could be lights out for Usyk. But he's too clever for that, I think, Mr. Usyk. And I can't see Daniel beating him. Certainly, with all those Ukrainians who crossed the border into Poland to support him.
Now, we've mentioned briefly Fury and Joshua. Joshua, it's been reported this morning, the rematch clause that was much debated with him and Dillian Whyte has now been removed from the contract, so talks are back on. Have you got much interest in Joshua and Whyte going at it again? Is that something that gets your juices flowing?
Yes, I certainly would be very interested. I mean, their first fight was a good fight, and Whyte very nearly won it early on, and Joshua came back and knocked him out. And of course, they don't love each other. So it has the makings of an extremely good return. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see some of these heavyweights fighting. Stop talking and start fighting.
And then you've got Tyson Fury, who seems to, as you said, stop talking, start fighting. He's done a lot of talking recently about a big fight and a big announcement coming, and we're still waiting. What's the issue, do you think?
I've heard rumours that maybe that will be resolved and that Tyson Fury will have a major fight in the autumn. I don't know quite who they're talking about, but he's got to get off his backside and get back in the ring. Because by the time, they're talking about Joshua won't fight again till next year. I mean, that would mean Fury wouldn't have had a fight for 14 months if he has to fight Joshua next year. That can't happen. He's got to fight again soon, and I'm led to believe it could be early autumn.
He's got those big wins, of course, over Klitschko and Wilder. If he were to retire tomorrow, Fury, what would his legacy be?
A great character, a very good fighter, but he was never unified like Lennox Lewis, and I think that might rankle with him. So I think, basically Fury does want to be the unified world heavyweight champion, undisputed, and emulate Lennox Lewis, who, as you know, was the last British fighter to do that. And my memory's not quite what it was, but I think that was at least 10 years ago.
And you, of course, covered the golden era where the likes of Ali, Norton, Frazier, I could go on, but they all fought each other. How disappointing is it for you in comparison that the current crop seem to not be competing against each other?
I was very fortunate to go through that golden age. But of course, it was different then. The problem today is that these fighters are contracted to rival TV companies, which does not help the situation. But in the Ali, Frazier, Foreman, if you go take Riddick Bowe and Holyfield, they fought 3 times, and that was slightly after that golden era. They all fought each other, but it wasn't just the heavyweights. Take the middleweights, the Leonards, the Haglers, the Hearns, the Durans. They had 9 fights between them. They fought each other, and the public benefited by it. They benefited by it, and boxing benefited by it.
Colin, really, really appreciate it, and let's hope we get some of those big fights we're hoping for.
Me too.
Cheers.